How about that U.S. Senate race this year? Farm Bureau was pleased to be part of Josh Hawley's campaign following his endorsement by you all earlier this year. Josh currently serves, at least for the next few weeks, as our state's Attorney General. A native of Lexington, Missouri, Josh graduated from Larcos High School in Kansas City. After college and law school, he moved back home to mid-Missouri, where he lives with his wife, Erin, their two boys, Elijah and Blaze, and their horse, Snap. He's a constitutional lawyer and a recognized national expert on the Constitution of the U.S. He's litigated in the Supreme Court of the United States, most of the federal courts of appeals, federal district courts, and state courts across the country. He is also a former professor of law at the University of Missouri. You know that Missouri Farm Bureau had a great opportunity to get to know Josh over the campaign season. Excuse me. Hello? Hello?
Blake, this is Josh Hawley. How are you?
Hi. Oh, hi, Josh. Appreciate you calling me.
Yeah, I hope I'm not catching it at a bad time.
Yeah, I know. This is good. This is good. In
Well,
fact, I
listen-
would just...
Go ahead.
We were talking to some of our members about you.
Oh, well, I'm just calling to say thank you again for everything that Missouri Farm Bureau did in this last campaign and everything you do for the state of Missouri. And I just want to say I can't wait to start working for Missouri's farmers in the Senate.
Well, why don't you just come on up here and tell our members about that in person?
I'd love to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Thank you. Oh, you don't have to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an incredible privilege to stand here before you, and after 12 long years of not having somebody take your calls in Washington, D.C., it's a great privilege to stand here and to say that I will answer you when you call, and it's a great privilege to stand here as the next senator from the state of Missouri. Thank you for making it possible. I want to say just a word about the work that is ongoing in the Attorney General's office, and then the work that I think is in front of us in the nation's capital. When you elected me as your Attorney General 2 years ago, I said that I would make fighting for Missouri agriculture my number one priority, and that's exactly what we have done. And there's important work that is ongoing in that office that I know that my successor, I think you've already heard from, will continue and fight for. We've gone to court, and we are in court right this very minute in the Supreme Court of the United States fighting against those other states led by the state of California who would try to come into Missouri and impose their anti-agriculture, anti-farm, anti-ranch, job-killing regulations on our state. The state of California, as you know, is trying to tell us here in Missouri how we can farm. And their idea is that they ought to be able to come into our state and tell our farmers what we can and cannot do, even though we don't have a vote in the California legislature. We don't elect the California governor, and they have no say what goes on here. Well, I said as Attorney General that is simply not going to stand. And so we have gone to court. We've gone to the Supreme Court of the United States to ask the Supreme Court to do something pretty simple, and that is to enforce the Constitution of the United States, which says that you cannot impose taxes, you cannot impose regulations, you cannot kill family farms without a vote. And I don't know about you, but I don't have a vote in the California legislature. Do you? I don't have a vote for California's governor. They don't have any votes here. And so we're asking that the Constitution of the United States be upheld and that our rights to farm be protected and upheld. I'm proud to be fighting for that case. I'm proud of the work this office has done, and I'm proud to say I know that my successor will continue that important work. Of course, that's just the beginning of the work that has been going on in the Attorney General's office. We went to court to fight against the Waters of the United States rule, and I'm glad to say that rule is finally gone, and we hope soon to be gone forever. As the late Justice Antonin Scalia, a hero of mine, once said about a different thing, but it applies here. He said, here's what we need to do. We need to drive a wooden stake through the heart of that rule so it never rises from the dead to torment our children again. That is exactly my goal when it comes to the waters of the United States. It's time to kill it once and for all. And you have my commitment that as I go to Washington, I will fight tirelessly to make sure that the waters of the United States rule never comes back. And beyond that, that the EPA learns that farmers are the lifeblood of this country. They are the backbone of America. They are not the enemy, and it's about time the government started protecting our farms rather than trying to take our farming rights away. We went to court to stop the Obama administration's critical habitat rule, as they call it. Now, you've heard me talk about this before, and you probably know about it. This is my favorite one out of all the Obama administration rules. It's the most absurd because this one would allow the government to impose regulations on how you use your land, how you farm, even if there's no endangered species on your land, and even if there never would be any endangered species on your land. It's absolutely outrageous. We went to court to fight it, and now the critical habitat rule is gone. We went to court to fight the so-called stream protection rule, which is another water use regulation, and now it is gone. It has been my privilege, here's the point, it's been my privilege over these last 2 years to go to court and to fight for our farms, for our ranches, and for our way of life. I know that my successor is going to continue that fight, but thank you for allowing me to serve as your Attorney General. Thank you for the privilege of fighting for you. And now thank you for the new mission that you've given me, sending me to Washington, D.C. You know, as many of you know, I come from a farming family. I know many of you in this room know me personally and know my family. But I come from a farming family, and of course then I married a gal who comes from a ranching family, and we spent Thanksgiving this year out on the ranch. My wife's from New Mexico. She grew up on a cattle ranch. She's generation number 6, born to that ranch. And so we were out there with her family, and they followed this last campaign. Her family did, and one of her uncles, Aaron's dad, that's my wife. Aaron's dad's no longer with us, but his brother, Aaron's uncle, took me aside at one point on Thanksgiving itself, at Thanksgiving dinner. He took me aside and he said, I certainly hope you intend to make ranching and farming your number one priority in the United States Senate. And I said, well, yes, sir, I do. And he said, well, you better, because if you don't, just don't bother coming home. I said, yes, sir, I got the message. But here's the truth, is you and I both know that if we don't make farming our number one priority, none of us are going to have any homes to go to. And I'm not just talking about us here in this room. I'm talking about every person who lives in this state, and every person who lives in this country, for that matter. Because you and I both know that what you do every day is the lifeblood, it is the heartbeat, it is the pride of our state. Let me just say clearly one more time for all of those in the DC media and on the left coast and everywhere else who don't get it, that the farming way of life built this state, it built this country, it sustains this country, and we will do anything to protect it. Make no mistake. It's been my privilege to fight for you in the Attorney General's office, and I'll fight for you in the United States Senate. And let me just leave you with a couple of pledges that I hope that you'll hold me to. I promise you that I will stand up and fight for our way of life, which is what has made this country and has made this state. I promise you that I will never enrich myself in the United States Senate. I promise you that I will every day wake up to fight for our interests, for our needs, and for the values and principles that we hold and that we share together. I promise you I'll never forget what farming means for this state and for this country. And I'll never forget that our way of life together represents the very best of America. You know, I got awfully tired, I have to say, during the last campaign, listening to some of these journalists from, New York and Washington, which is fine, but they'd come out here. Some of you met them. They'd come out here and they would say, boy, it sure is different out here than it is in New York. And I'd say, welcome to the United States of America. It's good to have you here. But I get tired of listening to them talk about how, well, isn't it nice how many farmers you have in Missouri? But that's kind of the Missouri farmers kind of represent the past. That was what they were always saying to me. And I got tired of telling them, we don't represent the past. Our way of life represents the best of this country. It represents the best of Missouri. And you know what? It represents the future of Missouri and the future of this country. And I promise you never to forget that. Never to forget that our way of life is the future of America. It represents the best of America and the best of what we can be. It's been an incredible privilege. It's going to be a privilege to continue to serve you. I hope that you'll come and see me in Washington. Of course, I'll see you here all the time, but if you're in Washington, come by and see me. I'd love to see you whenever you're in town. You don't even have to call ahead. Just come to the office and give a holler. And I'd love for you to see me, and I'd love for you I want you to think of the office that I'm going to inhabit as your office. By the way, if you come see me the next 6 months, I'll tell you where my office is. They've got me in a basement. It's down in the basement. I think it's the Dirksen building. I don't know any of the buildings. I think it's the Dirksen building, and it's down in the basement. There are no windows anywhere. So if you come and see me the next 6 months, don't worry. It's not a prison. This is not punishment for the state of Missouri. We'll soon be getting something better, but I tell you what, it's going to be quite an adventure, and it's going to be an incredible privilege to be there and to speak on behalf of you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for farming, for being farmers and ranchers. Many of you, all of you, could be doing other things, but thank you for continuing to feed this state, to feed this country, to feed the world, and to stand for and to represent the very best of who we are as Missourians and as Americans. God bless you. Thank you very much.